Today, we're going to be talking about implications. More often than not, a lot of lore in the media is designed to serve a certain, very particular function, but fans will be fans. We will take the most whimsical, fantastical world and try and apply world logic to it, going into all the dark and grim realities of what we know and make it somewhat cynical. We were given the demon realm as this amazing, magical dimension of possibilities, but after a while, we're starting to see some rather disturbing implications now we sit down and take stock. And these implications do make us wonder, do Supreme Kais actually suck? We loved in the day to make Shin the butt of our jokes, for years in fact, and luckily, Daima helped a little bit in developing his personality. Granted, the choices he makes by the end of the series are bizarre, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Time and time again, the fandom has been attributing his questionable decision-making process to him being relatively young and lacking guidance, because to be fair, in Z, he was kind of thrust into the job with Boo. But if we take a look back at Super, we will recognise that it's not Shin who's troublesome. You can write a whole essay about how inept at educating his successor was Goasu. Ro, from Universe 9, he's just an angry egotist who is despised amongst his fellow Glind. Fua seems to be lazy, Universe 6, but also kind of duplicitous. The list goes on, generally. We've kind of touched upon back in the day that Super was all about showing that the gods were incompetent. This isn't a revolutionary thought, as most of the conflicts, at least in the anime version, could be easily attributed to what they got up to as to why there was trouble. In the manga, the Granola and Gas arcs are a little bit outliers in this regard, and yeah, we technically do count Frieza, as his whole war with the Saiyans was egged on by Beerus. Gods in Dragon Ball, they're not exactly the most able. That's what we're trying to say. But surely a lot of these things we've just mentioned are not an element of intentional malice, right? It's not like they purposely avoided a morally correct action, surely. Well, let's see about that. What is the primary duty of the Kaioshin, really? Well, let's go with the information given to us from Chozenshu 1 from 2013, a section called New World. Translation, as always, goes mostly to Herms. The universe continues to expand beyond human comprehension. Goku and the gang live on Earth, which is called Planet 4032-877, part of the 7th universe. From their neutral standpoint, the Kaios and Kaioshins continue to watch over the various events on Earth, such as the menace of Frieza, Cell, and Majin Buu, as well as Goku and friends' exploits. From the heavenly realm in the upper half of the gigantic sphere, the Kaioshins oversee the living world that spreads out underneath. The world is reborn as destruction and creation repeat over and over. A Kaioshin holds the power of creation, which provides the catalyst for planets and life forms to be born. Planets continue to increase and are destroyed, while new planets are born. This cycle maintains the balance of the universe as a whole. Now, we do not really see that creative aspect of their nature in the media, probably because, unlike destroying things, making an entire planetary ecosystem is something that takes time and isn't overly sexy. What we actually see more of is their annoying insistence on neutrality, to observe, and perhaps it is not without merit. After all, we saw what happened to Mirrors when he intervened as an angel. He got cancelled out of existence, but still, I can't help but wonder if these deities really can't do more, considering how many universes had a really low mortal level score. Remember that? It's either that the system doesn't work, or someone's not doing their job right. But believe me or not, the greatest lack of supervision is not connected to the universes that they govern, but to the demon realm, their original home. Before we get full-on accusatory, let's return to Shin for a bit, as we've mentioned that his odd character arc is going to play a part in this entire discussion. So, initially, it seemed like he was on a mission, full of regret for how he left things with the Boo saga. We see him removing Pansy's collar and generally being a pretty decent guide and guy. We thought it would all lead to confrontation with his siblings, where mutual accusations would be thrown, and then reconciliation. This didn't really happen, and Degasu, probably the most wasted character in Daima, reduced himself to just being a very unsuccessful lackey who was caught laughably fast, and Aninsu was just allowed to do what she did. Now, think about it. She caused the whole thing just because she dreamed about some sort of demonic supremacy, justice for the Glins and herself. Scary realm which would cause others to kneel before her. Like, if her motivation were to get rid of foolish demon kings that ruin the realm, it would be somewhat sympathetic and understandable. Make her some sort of anti-villain, but no, we didn't get that. She just made some really evil plans to make her realm an evil empire, and she was, as Nahare himself stated, the inventor of those slave collars. So why on earth is he like, oh, you're not so bad, sis? Like, no. It would be the equivalent to saying, oh, Frieza's a good guy now because he helped one time against Jiren. No, it doesn't work like that. Not only that, but all this mess was caused because of Aritsu, and people can die. Correction, I'm pretty sure some Doma soldiers died, but we treat the series as basically deathless due to none of the major characters meeting their end in it. Like, it's not that she isn't redeemable ever. The Margin brothers have proven that she can be. But with how Daima ended, she was at the beginning of that path, not the end. We wouldn't see that. And Nahare was just like, my work here is done. But let's be real, the Demon Realm's really lucky to have such a smart Dinnerman bun in the form of Ku ruling it over now, though. Like, literally. It's like making Goten the king of the earth. As frustrating as this behavior from Shin was, it kind of feels in sync with not only his overall behavior before and after, but also this hands-off approach that the Supreme Kais just generally have. It has the reek of the very same weird logic that Goasu tried to use when educating Zamasu. Like, don't get us wrong, Zamasu is a huge jerk, but one could wonder what would happen if the Kai education system had not failed him. Not only that, but think about how long it took to convince Kibito of the values of mortals. Kibito, who is, supposed to be older than Shin, despite being his aide, and we know that he's not a Supreme Kai, he's a core person. But he was taking part in the Exodus, and as an assistant is considered part of the Kaioshin system. And through being that, he should realize that the existence of Mortys was part of the overall plan. Like, obviously, his mortal skepticism doesn't go as far as Zamasu's, though in the manga it was enough for Beerus to consider him to be a possible identity for Goku Black. It is a fun paradox of both, oh, we shouldn't interfere, and mortals can't be trusted with handling such important things. Again, this is explained by Kibito's jealousy, and at the end of the day, he does become more chummy with Goku and Co. But it is still there, he just happens to like this lot. That approach of being hands down and yet discouraging mortals from acting, this weird, almost fatalistic approach of letting things happen on their own, which kind of defeats the role of guardian deities, granted. For the universe to be balanced, bad stuff does need to happen, but you can't help but wonder, if some universes greatly went overboard with the destructive side of things, Universe 9 for example, if your destroyer god is the more sensible one than your Supreme Kai, I think there is something profoundly messed up with it, this system. But okay, there is something profoundly messed up with the Kaioshins as a whole organization, not just Ro's individualism. After all this time, none of them thought to go there and fix the mess for the people inside. Like, really? The Boro was pretty strong, probably too strong for a single Supreme Kai to take on, though I'm pretty sure the likes of Zamasu could have gotten really close on his own. You may tell me that Warp Summer wouldn't have let them through, but I am quite certain that 12 deities, because we are talking about the post-Majin Buu era here, could have figured something out. Heck, I'm quite sure that some destroyers could have been brought in to help them, and it's not like they are forbidden from returning to the Demon Realm. Once Dende had been taken, Shin didn't hesitate but to take action. Yes, true, there were only 2 Glind remaining there, Degasu and Aritsu, but because they're other species, they're neighbours. Neva had installed the barrier to limit the visits of fools and ruffians. And granted, we've seen some bad apples from the 3rd Demon Realm, but honestly, most of those people had it really miserable under the Demon King, so no wonder they were grumpy, especially with those collars on. You mean to tell me that both the legendary Namekian and the Kaioshins chosen by Raimus and their successors knew about it and went like, oh well, not our problem? And considering Kibito's initial opinion of the mortals, it is kinda hysterical that the Kaioshins could not even think of going back to their home and improve the living conditions of their fellow Majin. It took a very accidental twist from a few mortals, those that supposedly weren't meant to be entrusted with important things for anything to get done. Now, are we supposed to take this as a lesson from Daima? Another one in the long line of, in general, deities here kinda suck. I don't know. I think in this case, this is just another thought experiment that we made, and Toriyama and the other makers of the series did not intend for us to go that deep. But it is fun, you know. Not only because it's a way to look at how a fictional world works and how weirdly in character this is for the Kaioshins, but also how eerily real this all is. How a lot of people that claim to be in a position of moral power just allow tragedies and harm to happen upon others. If I had to guess, I would say that the Kais got so enamored by the idea of balance that it kind of consumed their common sense and basic empathy, that this holy mission that they had received from the likes of Rimus was more important than decency at times. It overrode them. It's interesting what this says about the creator himself. Was he like that as well? Or did they misread his intentions when making the show? We know that Zeno is a capricious deity, or at least wants to be seen as one. Is Rimus just as capricious? Or is it just that one giant test like the Tournament of Power? It's hard to tell, but needless to say, the state in which the demon realm is in now, it was long overdue of a makeover. And they were pretty fortunate that in the end, Arinsu's selfish actions unlocked a chain of events that caused the liberation of the demon realm from its hopefully last evil demonic king. Obviously, Ku's words about possible danger were meant to be taken as a joke, but in a way, they did still sound a little bit ominous. But should any danger arise, you can be pretty sure that Goku and the rest of his mortal posse will be more than happy to return and once again do the jobs of the gods for them. Yay! And with that, we end this discussion. What do you folks think? Are all these implications just a side effect of the story, the setting of Daima, or did Toriyama want to really stick a final pin into godhood? Who is your favourite Glim, by the way, and why? What kind of person do you think Rimus is? Is he similar to Zeno, or more like the Grand Priest on this occasion? A lot of questions, we know, but we always like to encourage a healthy discussion down below in the comments. Anyway, we hope that you enjoyed this video, and we shall see you in the next one. Catch you later!